A few years ago, I made a New Year's resolution to read a book a month, and I did it. I ended up reading 12 books that year, and the next year, I read even more, and the next year, even more than that. Now it's 2022. I've been reading every day for the past 3 years, but today, I asked myself a question. Is all this reading a waste of time?
Come on, man, this place blows. Let's go have some fun.
Well,
No way, man. Don't listen to that guy. What does he know? What does he know? I know one thing. All this sitting around has been a waste of time. Is not. Is too. Is not. Is too. Well, then prove it. Wait, what?
it's actually not a bad idea, little guy. Maybe reading was a waste of my time, but I guess if I wanted to prove that, I'd need to start by being clear about what I mean by wasted time. The dictionary says a waste of time is a bad use of time, which is basically the same thing, so that's not helpful. So instead, I framed it in terms of what I thought was a good use of time. When I think about it, my values are actually pretty simple. Time that I get to spend with my family, being productive in my work, staying physically active, learning new things. All of these values are like guideposts in determining what's time well spent versus what I consider wasted time. And that got me thinking, for something to be a waste of time, I have to ask, opposed to what? If I wasn't reading, what would I be doing in the mornings instead? Well, the truth is, I'd probably still be sleeping in bed. Years ago, when I set that goal for myself to read a book a month, it forced me to carve out time in my schedule. Waking up early was tough because I loved to sleep in, but I knew if I wanted to follow through, I had to make changes. And the hours I was spending oversleeping were like found time. So I started waking up earlier and using that time to read. For the first month or two, I could only really focus for about 20 minutes or so. But the more I read, the easier it got. And see, that's when I realized that it's not a waste of time, because reading is like cheat codes for learning. So here's what I mean. To me, learning is a function of time. Over here, we have time on the horizontal, and we have all the stuff that you know here on the vertical. So over time, we have all these experiences that we learn from. And in theory, the more that time passes, the more experiences we have, the more stuff we learn. We all want to go from here to here as quickly as possible, but usually that's not how it works. The normal trend tends to look something a little bit more like this. Now let's see what happens when we throw books into the mix. Books are amazing because really smart people spend a lot of time and a lot of effort condensing the stuff that they know into one focused and concise narrative. Some of the best books are written over decades, and what might have taken someone a lifetime to learn, you get to learn in just a few hours.
Hey man, get me out of here. I don't want to do this. Get me out of here right this instant. I want to go. I don't want to be here. Get me out of here right.
So for every book you read, you get this little spike of growth. And the thing is that growth tends to compound over time. But that's not the only benefit. There are really three main use cases that outweigh the opportunity costs when it comes to reading. Number one would be reading for pleasure. Now, I love reading, but I look at reading as more of a way to come into contact with and cherry pick new ideas. So I guess I don't do it recreationally, but there are a lot of people that love reading and just do it for the fun of it. And I think that's great. To me, that goes back to your values. Any time spent turning off the valves for a little while, checking out from everything else, and checking in with yourself is time well spent. Case number two is knowledge and skills. To me, this one depends on what you're trying to learn and how you as an individual learn that thing best. For example, this past weekend, I pulled out my lawnmower for the first time to mow the yard after it had been sitting all winter. And it starts up fine, but then it turns off. Obviously, my first thought isn't to go get a book on lawnmowers. I just looked up a video on YouTube and I still couldn't fix it. But you get my point. You can learn a lot of things from podcasts, Instagram and TikTok accounts, Reddit forums. There's a ton of ways to get information now, and for a lot of people, reading falls pretty low on that list. If reading isn't the way that you learn the best, then it is a waste of time by definition. But sometimes it's possible that you might be tricking yourself, thinking that you're learning when you're really just being distracted. Here's an example. Have you ever heard a word, thought it in your mind, and you think, yeah, I know that word, and then you try to say it in conversation and you completely mess it up? Well, the reason that happens is because that word is still abstract in our minds. Our representation of the word is shallow and it's not embodied yet. Embodied knowledge is robust, and again, reading is a cheat code for embodied knowledge because you have to actively participate in the process. And case number 3, this one is the main reason why I read, and that's context. Our lives are a sum of all the experiences we've had and the information that we took from those experiences. And just like each one of us has their own story, any given book contains a unique point of view, but a single book in relationship to another book starts to create a network effect, and that's where connections start to take place. Your brain's main job is to make a map of the world around you, and it's constantly trying to fill in new territory to make a better map. But in the beginning, our map starts out pretty small, and there's all these gaps that need to be filled in. And the thing is, these gaps don't magically disappear if you ignore them. The gaps are there whether you like it or not. And reading, for me, makes me aware of those gaps and gives me a chance to fill them in. It lets me see things a little bit more clearly, one day at a time. So to answer the question, no, reading is not a waste of time. But that's just what I think. If you think it is, you can let me know in the comments. But if you think it is a waste of time because you get bored or distracted whenever you read, I made a video on how to change that right here. Thank you for your attention. Like and subscribe. Okay, bye.
Hey man, let's talk about this. You don't have to do this. Tell me, I don't want to do this. Tell me, no. No!